We're back with Leslie Wilcox, President and Chief Executive Officer of PBS Hawaii.
If you had a chance to redo that point where your parents didn't have that hardship, would you change anything about that point in your life?
I don't know. I think I would. It's hard to say, where do you start rewriting your history? I do know that I've never once regretted not taking that scholarship to USC. It would have been another life. I would have had a job as a copy person at the LA Times as part of it. But what I got was something way more satisfying, and that was taking care of my family. And they had already applied for Mayor Right housing at the time. So they were close to going to housing, and I just was so glad I could be there for them. And I ended up putting my younger brother and sister through college. And it just feels so good.
Is that why you do so many of the non-profit community things that you're doing now?
I don't think so. I think it really doesn't come from that place in my life. I think it comes from having been a news reporter for so long and being in places where there was so much need and so much urgency and so much despair, and seeing how parts of our system are broken and there was no safety net for some people. I've just seen it, and I had to be a stoic, neutral reporter turning in the story, but I didn't want to leave it at that. I wanted to do something separately that helped, that actually put me in the position of helping.
And why do you take up Lokahi as your platform?
Well, it developed from, I was doing stories on homeless people and foster kids who were abused, and I just got to see another side of Hawaii. And I realized I could have been there too, and it became very easy to help. You know why? Because people in Hawaii are so generous, and not only generous, they don't wait to be asked what to do. If you tell them what the situation is, I'm convinced they will come forward and they will tell you what they will do for you. And that's why Lokahi is wonderful, because it lets people tailor-make their contributions. We don't say, no, we only take checks and mail them to this address. We say, what would you like to do? And people have sent kids through community college. They've bought their groceries for a year. They've bought them computers. They've helped in very many different ways.
How does this Lokahi project work?
Well, I'm not connected with KHON2 anymore, so I don't get to have a say in it. I'm cheering from the sidelines. It's now a year-round emergency assistance fund. It keeps a lot of kids off the beach. It helps their parents make their rent for the month or pay their utility bill. But the way it works is Channel 2 does stories about one family situation is, and you decide if you can help that family. I think when you look at all the needs, you go, it's overwhelming. You say, oh, I can't, what can I do? Where do you start? Lokahi and other nonprofits give you a place to start, because, you can't do everything, but everybody can do a little something.
What initiatives does PBS have in the community?
We have the Ready to Learn program, which is a statewide traveling program where we have a representative named Terrence Quinsat, who's just a charming guy, and he goes to schools anywhere in the island chain, and he provides learning materials to parents and teachers and talks with the kids, and just his job is to just introduce them to materials and help make learning fun.
And then do you tie that in with some of the educational programming that you're doing on PBS as well, so they maybe have the materials? And
that's right. Like, for example, NOVA, we have a elaborate set of instructional materials for teachers that just bring it home to students, and it's all free. I think we're the leading supplier of educational materials from kindergarten through 12th grade in Hawaii. Teachers just have to call and say, I'd like to do that. And they've got what they need.
Leslie, through your whole experience, you started as a journalist as a young girl. Now you're a very accomplished woman. But could you share with us what was the most memorable time or person that you've had a chance to interview and ask the questions you wanted?
It's funny. Celebrities aren't the ones I remember at all. And I've interviewed 3 presidents, and I've interviewed Michael Jackson, and those people are so used to being asked questions, and they're on a timeline, and they're used to protecting themselves. Far and away, the most interesting people I've met are people that you might pass in the street and think are just ordinary folks. It's how they react under extraordinary circumstances, and I can't even name one because so many are so riveting. But there was a woman who was the victim of a crime syndicate guy. He broke into her house and he raped and shot her 3 times in the back of the head with a .22. and she dressed herself and went to the door, got out of her condo and crawled to the elevator, and everybody thought she was drunk and left her for dead. When she finally got to the emergency room, and they had the detective interview her on the emergency operating table because they didn't think she'd survive. And she said, "No, I'll talk to you later, detective, because I'm going to put this guy in prison." And I was there from the beginning of that terrible episode, and it got even more convoluted, where she had to hide while the suspect was free, and he, reportedly there was a contract out on her life. But I got to know her quite well, and it's that kind of experience that makes you really have faith in people. And I just saw enormous strength in this person.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.